Welcome back to Table Talk. I'm your co-host Brian Kell. We are joined by a guy with the last name that is no stranger to folks of coffee in Warren counties, Niederhauser. Mike Niederhauser joins us here at Table Talk for the very first time to talk about Everest. Mike, welcome to Table Talk.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
This captivated me last year, correct?
Last year, correct.
By following you and being friends with you on Facebook, this was something that seemed like it went on and on. So whenever we were talking about different shows we wanted to do and different segments, I thought, let's get Mike Niederhauser in here to talk about Everest. Before we do that, like I said, you've had businesses here in Warren and Coffee County. For folks that, for some reason, hadn't run into you for a while, how's Mike Niederhauser?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, I had throat cancer, and I did this to celebrate my second anniversary of being cured of throat cancer.
So a fellow survivor. That's good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So that's really good. That and everything's going well on that.
Oh yeah, this is great. And my doctors couldn't believe I did Everest Base Camp on my second anniversary. My first anniversay, I did a half-iron triathlon though. So,
really?
Yeah. So.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got stuff here that Mike's brought with us we would definitely want to get to, but whenever you start talking about Everest, you tend to think about someone, oh gosh, somebody far away that has gone to want to be involved in some capacity with Everest.
Right.
So tell us about how this got started with trying to make your trek to Everest Base Camp.
Okay. I have a cousin, Leslie Trussler. Dr. Trussler in Manchester is her husband, and Leslie's a doctor of physical therapy. A lot of you may know her. She works with STAR, and she couldn't find anybody to go with her, and she kept asking all her friends, and she's my first cousin, and we were at a party, and she said, Mike, go with me, please. I'm about 20 years older than she is. And I said, all right, I'll do it. So Uncle Ed was freaking out because we had to fly in to Qatar to stay about a day. And he was scared to death because if she walked in front of somebody praying or something, they would put her in jail. So it was, that was a little tense there, but it was a great trip in there. Flew in from there to Kathmandu, and stayed there for a couple of days, and then started our trek to Everest Base Camp. And of course, for all the pilots along the way, we flew into Lukla, which is the most dangerous airport in the world. And all the pilots, every time I say I went, they go, oh, I've seen the YouTube videos of the landings. And when you land, people go, whoosh. So. But
you should say because once a year a plane will actually
fly into the wall. The runway is like this, so when you land going uphill. And the last day we're leaving, and I watched the plane fly out, and he flies out, drops off, and I goes, oh no! And then you see him pull on up. So it's the air is thin up there, so conditions are a little different, and things change.
So we need to mention this real quick. You went at a very interesting time of the year, I guess, to be doing this.
Right.
Peaking at Everest was never the goal for this.
Right.
We want to just lay that out real quick. You're going to be talking about the area that you all went to there, but you said kind of a treacherous time to be doing that, to go actually to the peak of Everest.
Right. The climbing season for Everest is April, May. It's when the ice will not shift on you bad enough, and avalanches are less, things like that. November is a climbing season, October, November, but they say only the crazy people climb then, and the Russians, the Czechoslovakians, and the Chinese, and some of those guys are just fierce climbers, and they climb. So, but this was the trek to get up there, and this is what everybody does who doesn't live in the high mountains to climatize to get there. We spent 3 weeks. But if you are climbing Everest, it's a month and a half to 2 month thing. Yes, your body has to climatize. Altitude sickness is a really, really severe thing that happens to people. And my biggest fear was having altitude sickness. Our group was a doctor who owns the company, Rob Cassidy, and then Kevin Van, who's a nurse that lived in Manchester. He's works around the world now. But Rob and Kevin have a company, and they said they take people. So they were going to take about 12 of us, and everybody backed out but Leslie and I. And so it was great. We had a private trip, and Rob was everybody's private physician as we moved up.
That did work out well.
So we stayed in people's kitchens when we ate. We were treated very, very nicely and became great friends with a lot of people, including our Sherpa, who 2 weeks after we returned died in an avalanche. So who was a great guy, and we went to Amina Blan Base Camp, which was where he died in an avalanche. And the people there live with danger every day. Not just the extreme cold and the conditions, but we were in a yak charge stampede where we had to back up against the wall, and this 1,500-pound beast comes running at you with a herd of them, and only because we were against a rock wall did he stop. But the people there live every day like that.
Well, you said that the actual trek, I mean, you're talking about 3 weeks,
Yes.
blocking out that. What about to get ready for this? Talk about what went into that.
Well, that's what everybody gave me grief, because nobody thought I was in good enough shape to do it. But I was. I swam. I was swimming twice a week, at least a mile. I was riding 100 miles a week on my bike. We were. My girlfriend is pretty active, so we were hiking and doing stuff like that. And then I did wear what people call an altitude simulator, but it's a mask that restricts the flow of oxygen. Is really what it does. So you learn to utilize the oxygen in your lungs more efficiently.
More efficiently,
yeah. So I did that. Although I probably didn't do enough of that. But when we got up there, I was the only one who had never been on a trek before. So I had to learn how to walk. About the third day, they were, "You're not walking right. You're not doing this." And that night, I went back to the hotel and got up the next morning and said, "You guys are going to have to quit telling me I'm not doing it right and tell me what to do." Okay. So they started working with me, and it's short steps. I'm from the country, and I was, and it's very, very short steps. And I had to learn the French step and the American step to save energy. Everything was about energy. The amount of energy you took in food, and they watched you to make sure you were eating enough. The amount of energy you expelled during the day. Everything was about food and water.
I've been fascinated in watching different documentaries how regimented it appears to be on the different teams that I've seen do that. I assume that's exactly what you're saying. It is very regimented.
It's very regimented. We would climb certain heights during the day, come down at night and spend the night to help climatize. And we had to spend time up there. It wasn't just you climb up and you come down. You had to spend time, let your body adjust, come down and spend the night. Climb high, sleep low. And you did that every day. And we had 3 rest days, is what they called them. But you didn't rest, you climatized.
Right.
We would climb mountains.
Your body's working while you're doing that.
We would climb mountains, and we would do things, go on hikes. Our shortest day was maybe 6 miles, and our longest day was probably 15 miles. And that's when we got up at midnight and climbed Lobuche East and 20,000 feet and climbed that, and then came down and then had to trek till 4 o'clock that afternoon for a place to spend the night. And they'd given our rooms away. Well, highest part of life. So we said, okay, we'll sleep in the, they have these dining areas. And they said, you can sleep here. It's the only place with heat. So it was like, really? We could sleep in a room with heat? Because you stayed in tea houses is what they're called. Okay. They have a dining area, and there's a stove in there that they have cooking in the back, little kitchen, maybe some propane or whatever. And then they have yak dung stoves because you're above the tree line, and we're in a park anyway. You can't cut trees, you can't burn anything.
Right.
So they would, you would show up at a tea house, and there would be a pile of yak dung, and you'd go, oh, we're going to have heat tonight. So they burned this yak dung, and for us to, but if you weren't in the lodge area, and you were in your rooms, which were either attached or non, most of them were not attached to the lodge, there's no heat. So your water bottles would freeze at night, sometimes in the room. It was extremely cold. You would get up, you'd get up cold. You slept in a lot of clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any point or points where you thought, I don't know about this?
No, you were so focused on not falling off the cliff and not getting run over by a yak and not doing things wrong that you really didn't. I got discouraged the day that I didn't know how to walk and they were telling me.
Right.
But after they got with me and talked to me on that, no, I didn't. It was great. It was great.
The second question, what surprised you having gone, your thoughts going into it, what surprised you on the backside of that after experiencing the whole thing? What were the surprises, things that you did not expect, good, bad, or indifferent?
The people are just like the people around here. They're great country folks. They grow their own food. They love the people around them. They just, I thought because of the language barrier and things, there would be some issues. And a lot of them spoke English, and if they didn't, we communicated. And there were some customs that we had to get used to. You couldn't take a picture of a woman without her permission, which is understandable. Mm-hmm. And one day there was a lady working in the fields, and she was out there, and just beautiful cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower and carrots, and I'm taking a picture of the field, not her, because I knew I couldn't. She jumped up and she started yelling at me, and I yelled back, "I'm not taking a picture of you." And our Sherpa, Tindu, looked at me and said, "I'll tell her." And he told her, and she went, "Oh, okay." But she was extremely nice, but she didn't want her picture taken. And I understand that. Yeah. But they dressed in their ceremonial garb, and it was, I had watched a lot of YouTube videos and done a lot of reading on it to prepare, so there wasn't a lot that really shocked me.
You hear a lot about how tough those Sherpas are. You saw it firsthand. I guess you can say you would totally agree with that. I'm sure.
Well, we were spoiled. We had a Sherpa, Tindu, that when we would go along the path, people would stop and talk to him. And one guy one day looked at me and said, "You're with a legend." He had climbed Everest like 13 times. That's probably not the right number, but incredible amount of times. He climbed twice in one day and then ran the Everest Marathon that afternoon. He just was an incredibly strong person. They live in this area, so where they don't have to climatize like us, their body's already used to it. Their heart rate is slower. So when they come down to the mainland, they're very, very steady. They don't have shakes. A lot of them make great watchmakers or things like that, but they can't stand not being up in the mountains. We had a great experience in that, like say, people took us in their homes. We got to eat in the kitchen, not in the dining hall. So we heard what was going on. And one guy got a load of potatoes in one day, and he had to open the door on the cellar to show me the potatoes. And I started looking and talking about the potatoes because I worked in potato barns growing up in Hillsborough, so I knew a little bit about them. And just really, really, really strong, incredible people. We get to this Tingbouche, which is where the great high mountain Sherpas are from. And we're going to a monastery to see this monk who blessed me and tied this rope around my throat and said, don't take it off, let it fall off. So we talked to him, and as we walked in, he pointed, "That's my mother's house." And I went, "Wow, so this is your monastery." So the priest was extremely nice to us. The monk was extremely nice to us. But he did a private ceremony for Tindu, which we got to watch, which was totally incredible. It was about a 45-minute ceremony, which he blessed him, and he pulled special robes and special foods out and blessed him. And that was probably his last blessing before he died 2 weeks later.
So I don't think I've picked up on that. 2 weeks after you all made your trek with him is when that avalanche happened.
He died in an avalanche 2 weeks after we left. And that was supposed to be the original week we were going to be there, but they changed our date because he had booked this group. And, there were avalanches quite a few times, a lot of snow avalanches, but we were walking on the last day of the climb up to Everest, and Kevin stops and goes, "Spread out." And I looked around, and nothing, no sounds, and I thought no avalanche. And so we spread out, and I got to thinking, I said, "Kevin, is this because if there's an avalanche, you don't want to lose both of us?" And he said, "Yep, y'all are from my hometown, that would be hard to explain." And he said, "And this is an avalanche area." So we spent a lot of that time on the Khumbu Glacier, which is ice, but we didn't realize we were on the glacier till we started talking, because the avalanches had covered it in so much rock, that your own rock that's shifting. And then, so I said, when did we get on the glacier? Oh, 5 days ago. You know, but it was covered in ice, so you didn't know it. But it was cold. You knew it was cold.
You've got some stuff we need to get to.
Okay.
That you're right. Show and tell time with Mike Niederhauser. So take us through this.
Well, we carried a backpack like this every day.
May have to set it over here.
Yeah,
so
except
we can get on two shots.
this is a lot lighter. Of course, your hand sanitation cream, there was no water. So you drank water out of a bottle, and after you went to the bathroom, which was a hole in the floor, you made sure you sanitized, and you made sure the guy next to you sanitized.
Go ahead and sit down with us right
now.
So
they're touching your food. But I also, so this was about 30 pounds, 30 to 35, depending on what the clothing we had in each day. And of course, these are my trekking poles, and you would, every day you walked with these.
These are worn pretty
yeah,
good,
they're
too.
worn. My first day, I hit on the side of the mountain as we're going, and it gave way. The mountain gave way, and I almost went off. And I went, whew. So you thought, you've got to learn how to do this and what to do. So there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
We had a solar charger, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it, that we hooked on the back. So during the day, it would charge your charger, so you could charge at night. Although it didn't always get enough for a charge, you got partial charge. And it was so cold, we tried to post on Facebook, and anybody that's a friend of mine, go on there and look. And there's a whole 3 weeks worth of posts about what we did daily. But it was so cold at night when you're in the room, and even in the lodge area where the stove was, that you would have to hold your finger on your phone for your finger to warm up the phone screen to take the letters. It was just incredibly cold.
You talked about the glasses before we started this. This is pretty amazing right here.
I had sunglasses on, and about the second day, Rob, the doctor, looked at me and said, I can see your eyes. Have you got other glasses? So most of the pictures, I'm in this because these glasses would take the rays. We're so close to the sun.
I was going to
the
say,
air's
it's a different
so
experience
thin.
up there when you're talking about UV rays.
So the UV rays would damage your eyes. So you had to wear special glasses just for that. But it was an incredible experience.
And then that hat obviously saw.
I wore this hat. I don't wear a hat a lot, but it was cool every day.
Yeah.
And the only time I didn't wear a hat is when I had this hat is when I had a toboggan or something on. And when we climbed, we had 2 layers of gloves on. And I was telling you earlier, I had never climbed before, so we get out there the day before we do the 20,000-foot climb, and they said, all right, we're going to climb this mountain. I go, how? They go, use a Jumar ascender. I go, huh? So they taught me how to use a Jumar ascender. We get to the top, and they go, okay, rappel down. And I go, how? So they taught me how to rappel, and then they got us up at midnight, and I told you that it was so cold they gave us water bottles. They heated the water bottles up right after dinner and put the hot water in the bottle, and we put it down by my feet. My God, that was so nice because it kept your feet warm, and we were in 0-degree sleeping bags with liners in them because it was so cold. And of course we got up and the water we were drinking had frozen, and it was just incredibly cold.
Wild.
Yeah.
We could go on. We're on a time crunch here.
Yeah.
Tammy's in the back probably going, okay, enough. But want to say this. This show is built on people and places and stories. And Mike Niederhauser, you have checked off every box today for us to be able to enjoy just a little bit about what you experienced up there. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate
If anybody wants to go, it's the trip of a lifetime.
I'm sure.
But it is not a trip you just say, hey, let's go on. It's a trip you plan for.
Mike Niederhauser, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Table Talk, we'll be back next week. Want to appreciate all of our guests on today's show. And thank you so much for being a part of Table Talk. Until the next time at this table, we bid you adieu. Thank you for watching.